Hi, everybody. I'm going to be talking to you today about our new skill that we're going to be working on during reading, which is identifying an author's perspective or point of view in a story. And it's very similar to what our first I can statement is for the next 3 weeks. So I'm going to read the I can statements to you and talk a little bit about what each one of them means. And then I'm going to model kind of how to apply this skill in our video today. Okay. So our first I can statement is I can identify the author's point of view in a nonfiction text. So let's talk about what that means a little bit. A nonfiction text we know is a teaching book, and an author's point of view is what they believe, what they want you to know about a topic, kind of the point they are trying to get across to you. So if we're reading a story, a nonfiction text, and we're asking what is the author's point of view, we are asking what does the author believe about this topic? What does he or she want you to know about this topic? The second I can statement is I can compare and contrast my perspective with the author's point of view. Now, that word perspective is just another term for point of view. So the words compare and contrast mean for look for ways they are similar, and contrast means to look for ways they are different. So after we read a story and we figure out, okay, what is the author's point of view? What do they believe? Then we're going to think about, okay, what do we believe about the topic? What is our perspective? And do we agree? We're going to talk about ways we do agree. That's when we compare ways they're similar. And then we're going to talk about ways that our point of view contrasts, ways that it is different. So we're going to read some stories this week and think about what is the author's point of view? What do they believe? And do you agree with them or not? That's when we're saying, we are going to compare and contrast our point of view. Okay. So I'm going to model this for you and kind of compare and contrast my own point of view about the topic that I'm going to read about right now. Okay. So this story is about winter. Follow along with my cursor, my little mouse right here with each word. Winter is a dreadful time of year. Everything is dead and lifeless. The trees are bare and the grass is brown. It is bitterly cold outside. Sometimes the temperature drops well below zero, and it's uncomfortable to be outside for even a few minutes. Winter can be dangerous. People die every year on ice covered highways. Others end up in emergency rooms due to frostbite. Winter is the worst season of all. So, the question I want to ask first is what is the author's perspective? And I'm going to use everything I know in the story, not just one part, but everything that's in the story to figure out what the author's perspective is. So I'm going to use some clues in the text to help me figure out what he believes about winter. So if I look, it talks about that winter is bitterly cold and that sometimes it's uncomfortable to be outside for just a few minutes. Well, if it's uncomfortable, that means you're usually not enjoying it. And then later it talks about how winter can be dangerous. And if winter is dangerous, again, that's probably a problem. So that's probably not something that he's going to enjoy. It says people die every year on ice-covered highways, and others end up in emergency rooms due to frostbite. All of this information lets us know that the author does not like winter, and he even states it clearly at the bottom. He says winter is the worst season of all. He tells you very specifically in this text that his point of view is that winter is the worst season or that he does not enjoy winter. So if it asked me what was the author's point of view, I might say something like the author does not enjoy winter or the author thinks that the winter is the worst season. It tells us that right here. It won't always tell you exactly what the author believes in one sentence. Lots of times you have to look for clues in the text, but in this time he actually tells us right here, winter is the worst season of all. So that would be the author's perspective. And then if it asked you which details let you know that that is what his perspective was, you could point to all these things I already talked about. The fact that he says the temperature drops below zero and it's uncomfortable, that it's dangerous, that people die every year, and that others end up in emergency rooms. All of those are details that let you know what he believes, what his point of view is. So then it might talk about, well, do you believe with it? Do you agree with his point of view? Let's compare and contrast our point of view. So I'm going to just do this for me personally. So for me, ways that I'm going to compare my point of view, ways that my point of view agrees with his point of view, is that I really don't like winter very much because I like sunshine, which usually it's kind of gray in the winter, and I like to be outside. And like he said, it's very hard to be outside when it's freezing cold. So I mostly agree with him. My point of view is that winter is not a very enjoyable season. Now, sometimes it can be, you might agree a little mostly, but you might disagree a little bit. The one thing I would say about winter that I enjoy is that it's basketball season, and basketball season is my favorite sport. It's my favorite time of year for sports. So, in that one small way, I disagree because when winter comes, it makes me realize basketball season's here, and that gets me really excited. So, I mostly agree with him, but I disagree just a little bit. So, when I'm comparing ways, there's more ways that I do agree with him than when I contrast the ways I disagree. But there is that one reason that I do disagree with him. So in this, when you take your quiz, it's going to ask you what is the author's perspective? How do you know which details let you know that is his perspective? And what is your own perspective on it? And if you did agree with his perspective, how might that impact your actions, the things that you do? So if you disagree, if you agree with him that winter is the worst, you're probably not going to be spending a lot of time outside during winter, having fun, enjoying things outside with your friends. That's going to impact what you do depending on what you believe, what your perspective is. All right, so go ahead and take your quiz today and let me know if you have any questions. We will all be available to you guys on Zoom.